This video is going over the percutaneous coronary intervention codes in CPT, and for this demonstration I'll be using the CPT 2020 Professional Edition. The codes for percutaneous coronary, what I call percutaneous coronary interventions, or PCI, are found in your CPT book starting on page 666 of this Professional Edition for 2020. And the header for this is Coronary Therapeutic Services and Procedures. As you can see, this section starts with extensive coding guidelines, and most of these coding guidelines have been broken down in a different way in our web-based training module and our webinar presentations. So it is important to review all of this and highlight and make notes. Just know that we've also broken it down for you in we hope easier bites for you to eat in our other training. A couple of things that I have done in my guidelines here for highlighting, and this has come from years of experience, so it's not, I don't highlight as much as I did when I first started coding these. But one of the big ones, because it's always something that I have to refer back to, are the guidelines for coding diagnostic coronary angiography in addition to our PCI procedures. And I just drew a box around that section and did a highlight up at the top so that I know that this entire part of the guidelines addresses that topic. They also have some bolded headers, which I've highlighted just to add, bring my eye to it a little more closely. These are things that I often find that I have to write up in audits that I have to refer back to, and it just kind of helps me find them quickly. Some other things you could do here would be to do different colors of highlighting, which I've done in other parts of my CPT code book that I'm not as up to date on coding. And, just find a way to make it easier for you to locate this information in the book. Guidelines do continue on to the next page. So a couple of things that I've done with my CPT book to make it more readable. All of the PCI codes are set up so that you have a base code for your first or your highest weighted procedure, and then you have an add-on code. And your coding guidelines tell you how to apply the PCI hierarchy, which again we go through in all of our training, and that helps you pick your base code, and then you have your add-on codes for each one of those. So I've chunked it out into pairings. So we've got 92920 and 92921 are at the bottom of your hierarchy. That includes your angioplasty, and 92920 for your first vessel, 92921 for each additional vessel. And then it goes into atherectomy, then stents, then atherectomy with stents, and then it gets into some of the other weird stuff. So just real quickly, you'll notice that I drew lines around the pairings so that I can kind of see at a glance, oh, this is my stent code, and I highlighted the word stent, and this is my add-on code to go with it. Something else that I did, because on the facility side, we do have C codes for the drug-eluting stents, and they are a 1-to-1 match. So whatever the CPT description is, the HCPCS description for the corresponding drug-eluting stent code is exactly the same, except it says drug-eluting instead of just a stent without any other qualifiers in it. And I wrote those codes next to their corresponding codes here. I did this when I took my CERC exam. I wasn't sure, and honestly I can't remember now if it was something that I needed to differentiate, but I did not want to be spending time flipping around into other books and things. So this was just, pulling it into here. And the other thing is, I don't think it's really worth buying a HCPCS book, because the codes that we use on the hospital side, unless you're working with charge master maintenance, the codes that we use for HCPCS are just so minimal, and usually you can find them through your encoder. So there's really not a necessity for having a HCPCS code book as a coder. And these are the HCPCS codes that I use the most often. The additional codes that we have down here, they have the PCI hierarchy includes procedures done on or through a bypass graft. So again, I've just broken those out separately. Code 92941, I'll point out, is on its own. There is no add-on code for 92941 or the C9606, which is the drug-eluting stent code for Medicare. This is the code for PCI performed during an active acute myocardial infarction. And the add-on codes that go with that, you'll notice, are listed underneath that code. So you're always going to have CPT telling you which codes to code in addition to that if they treated other vessels beyond that initial vessel. And then we have the 2 codes, base code plus an add-on code for PCI for a chronic total occlusion. And kind of separate, both of these are add-on codes. These are what we call secondary PCI procedures, the thrombectomy codes. You'll notice that we've got one for, that's brachytherapy. We only have one code for the transluminal coronary thrombectomy. And this is only done when it's mechanical thrombectomy. And the device that does mechanical thrombectomy in the coronary arteries is an angiojet. So I wrote that off to the side. We don't code aspiration thrombectomy, but we do code mechanical thrombectomy. And then we've got the code for intravascular brachytherapy, which honestly is just not something that we really see much anymore. So that is an overview of the PCI section of CPT in the 2020 Professional Edition.